Hi all, welcome back. I'm Vishwanath. In previous videos, we developed Spring Boot REST API from scratch using Java 17, Maven, and integrated with Lombok, HATEOAS, HES2, JPA, Swagger, Hall, Actuators, implemented validations, handled exceptions, and secured endpoints via RBAC, role-based access control. Unit tested all the changes using REST templates. Also, we Dockerized and hosted it on Azure GIT for CI. We have also covered API versioning and its types and its purpose. Today we are here to discuss on the filtering by field, filtering by value, filtering by class or object, and pagination as well. We will implement couple of design patterns. Just to let you know, there are 23 design patterns like creational, behavior, structural. We will try to implement couple of design patterns during our demonstration of the filters. So without any late, let's get started. Let's go to the application, and in order to demonstrate the filters, let's create a controller where we can call that as a user controller. Sorry, user filter. So go to class and say as a class user filter controller, user filter controller, and you have seen in the previous video where I have created a couple of classes inside one class, but this is not a standard practice. These kind of classes are just created only for demonstration purpose. In ideally, you can create a class to be a record type in a different file instead of creating all the classes in one file itself, which is not a good practice. But for understanding the concept, that was the only reason of creating the multiple classes within this, so that when you refer it, you can see all the related changes of versioning in one file. With that in mind, we will also create one more class called as a user filter class. So let's say class, yeah, user filter, where we will create a couple of fields. Let's create string first name, string last name. I'll also mention the access type as private, and string. Probably I can copy it instead of typing. Gender, uh, then address, then I'll say as a phone number and email, and also I'll create one more as password. So, and let's make the annotation of this class to be a data, where uh, if we say as a data, this is going to get us all the required code as a getters, setters, required constructor, argument constructor, two strings, and equals and hash code method as well. So in order to apply one of the design patterns, which I am interested, is the builder design pattern, which again comes from the Lombok. If you are seeing this design pattern, you can see the existing code. For example, like example, which has two attributes along with the this class has two attributes like a for and that. It is once you apply the builder annotation, it is transformed into a private constructor, where it it injects these details, and the main advantage of it is it also have a inner constructor, and you can use in order to call the object, you can use like you know example as a static method, because these values are in the static method example builder dot that particular method name, so that way it will be easy for writing the data. So that's all on builder pattern explanation. Let's see how the code will look like. So let's create an endpoint without any filters first, and then apply the filters later. So get mapping, capital G, get mapping. So I'll call my method as a public uh, user filter without filter. So we will say as first version. We are going to create this as with the versioning, where inside this I'm going to use the concepts of versioning, where I'm going to follow like a URI type, where I can say as user filter. S- Remember all the names will be lowercase. So inside this is a public method which is going to return my uh, type of user filter. So I'm going to say as return new user filter, and initially I am going to pass all the values, which I'll say as first name, last name, and rest of the values. Also add an annotation as a REST controller. Uh, and let's see if the changes are going to be reflected or not. So let's navigate to the browser. Let's key it. Yeah, you can see the controller that we have created, and when you say as I try it out, you can see all the attributes which includes password as well, that is being displayed. So let's see how we can hide the password. So in order to hide the password, if you go back to the PPT, we can see like we can use JSON ignore on a field, or the getters and setters what we have is a JSON property where we can say like on a JSON property, or on a class we can say like it is a JSON ignore properties. We will try to implement all this for a different fields, and we'll see the result of it. Let's go back to the codes. And one more thing, inside the JSON ignore properties, we have one more property where I can say as an allow getters, or you can say as a allow setters. So what is this functionality will help you is this particular functionality, when you say like allow setters, it will allow you to set the values, but not for the getter values. Let's quickly see how it will respond in like Swagger. When I say like execute this method, in the result you see like those values are not being seen. If I change the annotation to allow getters, so if I refresh it and if I execute it again, try it out, execute it, you can see like gender and email are now being present. So that's how these values are being allowed or not being allowed. Uh, and this way we can use static filtering. So let's move on where we can apply the concepts of dynamic filtering. So in order to apply the dynamic filtering, we have to use one kind of annotation which we have mentioned in the presentation as well, which is a, JSON filter. So at rate of JSON filter. So where I'll be mentioning this as the name of the bean that I will be, because it's a name of the bean, I'm just mentioning as a dynamic filter. In fact, this name of the bean can be anything. In order to apply the dynamic filter, we have to use a class, MJV class. So this particular mapping JSON value class will have a method called set filter. Uh, and this particular method will take an argument of filter provider. Inside this filter provider is an abstract class, so we have to implement this class using simple filter provider, where we have a method inside this where we will be adding a filter of simple bean property filter. So let's see that in action. So let's create a method. We will say this as a version v2, where version 1 is pointing to static filters, and this is no longer with filters, it is with filters and with static and dynamic filters. Static, static filters and dynamic filters. As I said, in order to use it, I need to create a class of mapping Jackson uh, value. My return type of the class will be mapping Jackson value instead of my filters. So let me start with that, and whatever the bean that we have created is of user filter bean. So what I will be doing is I'll be calling this particular bean. Yeah, so let me create an object of this. So MJV filter MJV equal to my new filter. As I said, like for this I need to pass my bean. This is my bean, where I'll say as my bean equal to this particular class type. So I'm going to pass my bean inside this filter. And what we will be doing is, as I said, like this particular filter MJW, I have to add as shown earlier. There is a method called filter, which will take a parameter. Uh, I can say that to be a filter, and I'll say like extract this parameter, create a local filter of filter provider. As I mentioned, like this is an abstract class, and the implementation of it is via simple filter. So I'll just say like this particular class is the implementation of this using new filter provider, and inside that I have an filter called as an add filter method. Uh, So add filter method, which is typically taking two parameters. The first parameter is the name of the bean that I have created over here. So this is the on this particular class, I am going to apply that filter. Uh, and as I said, like this particular class add filter. So this is the object of that it is going to take, which is called as a simple bean property filter. So I'm going to create a simple bean filter from a static methods where I can say as a filter out the values all except. So I can use this method. Let us say if I want to filter out all the values, and where I'm going to say like I don't want to see phone number because I have not filtered out the phone number yet. So th that is the reason I'm mentioning like if I want to filter it out for the phone number. Uh, and finally, because it has to return this one, I'll just say like return my object, which is MJV type. So let's see how it works. And the expected result for this is the data will have only one field, which is phone number, because we are saying like filter everything out except this field. If you want to have another field, probably we can say like first name, because the first name is also not filtered. So I'm going to set like two properties. Let's go to Swagger. Let's say as a refresh, and let's say try it out, execute. So as a result, if you see it, yeah, and I see like I have not mentioned the codes properly here. So I have included now first name and phone. Once I save, like it's get restarted. So let's see whether it is able to, give me only two values, which I have mentioned it as a first name and the phone. Rest of all the values are being filtered out. Uh, that's how we have included versioning and versioning of the filters, and as well as uh, demonstration of static filters and dynamic filters as well. So let's move on to the next topic, where we will be dealing with the custom query filter using query. So let's go to the code. So this part of exercise requires injection of lot of data into our main controller itself, or we can create a separate class where we can say as a data loader, and we can say as a configuration. For now, I'll be creating it inside the constructor itself, inside this user constructor itself. Whenever we have anything as an annotation, we also have another annotation called post construct. Post construct. So this construct is basically you can see it will be injecting all the required dependencies in order to perform the initiation. So we will use this post construct annotation now, and we can say as a public void load data. So that is a method that I want to load, where I'm trying to say as if I go back to my user class, because this is our main user inside the user class. Inside my user class, I have like a couple of fields called as this. And now let's implement the builder pattern. In order to implement the builder pattern, when we have a data annotation, there is a catch. So if I directly say as a builder, there is no compilation error, but in the runtime, if we now go to our APIs and if we key any of these methods, existing methods, let us say like for like get, and if I say like or probably if I say like get all users, try it out and execute, I'll end up with an exception. Springer secret. So I'll over here I have not seen any exception, but when I have tried it, I have noticed that there is an exception. And in order to prevent that kind of exception, the fix is going to be adding a no argument constructor, and as well as uh, also adding a full argument constructor where we say like all our argument constructor. So this combination will help you in case if you find an error. This is the builder with no argument and all argument is the required combination that you can use with. So now let's go back to our main controller, where we are trying to create a new method inside our main user controller, where the method name is the post construct, and inside this we are trying to load the data, because we have created that as a builder pattern. We will implement the builder pattern earlier in user API test. You can see the it will not crash applying the builder pattern. The existing code will not crash because we have used it in a normal way. If we are trying to convert this into the builder pattern, instead of that, we can just say as a user dot builder dot build. So yeah, simple way of building it. And other way of like using it is where we can say like like setting the username or getting the username. All this stuff we can do with that. So let us say if I want to set an address, all I can key is an address, and I can pass some value. So this way, like object creation is more easy. If I want to create another field like date of birth, I can pass that value as well. So in that way, it is more easy in creating it. So for for now, I'll say as a user dot build. Eventually, this user is going to be built using the setter methods over there. Um, So let's go back where we are inside our controller. So the let's create, I mean, because user is going to take um, a couple of values like name, date of birth, email, address. What we are going to do is we are going to load random dates. So for that, I'll be using a method for date building it. Loca local date dot off. I want to take the start of date where user's date of birth is typically from a date this range to what I can mention is until date until my current date, local date dot now, local date dot now. So I'm going to take this range and I'm going to limit. I want to inject a data of 500 people. So I'll say like it is going to take like a limit of 501. So total number of records are going to be 500. Uh, and in the same way, if I'm going to use like a collector dot collectors, I am trying to collect this as a list collectors dot list to list. So I'll call this to be my random dates. My random dates is going to be this value, and because it is going to be a list of random dates, I'll just say as a list of local date type, which is my random list. Now, because I want it to be a random value, I have not done anything. So I'll again use the collections where I have a shuffle. So using this method, my random dates are going to be shuffled for this particular date range which I have chosen. So once I get my dates, now I'm going to use my random class object, new random. So where I'm going to have like a couple of methods with this where I can say as a final random, final random. Random is my object. So I'm going to import it. So it is from Java utils package. Random is from. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to loop through because I want to create lot of data. I need to use a loop. And in Java streams we have like int stream. So I'm going to make use of int stream method. Where I'm going to mention like my range. I'm going to use the first method. Second method will be inclusive. First method will not be inclusive. So I'll be mentioning like 501 so that it creates like 500 records map to object method. So where this is the method that will help me to create my value. And again I'm going to collect this as a list, so I'm just pasting it so that it is easy. So it is again going to be my list of users. So I'll just say as a list of users. So because I'm going to iterate it over here, because I have created a user as a builder pattern. Now I'm going to uh, say as a builder method dot I can just say my name, everything I want it to be a dynamic. So name I'm going to say like it gets appended with this name, and I'll say like plus this random object, and inside the random I have something called as a nest. Inside this object I have something called as a nest class, sorry, nest int method. Nest int method that will always give me the nest value, and I'm trying to see if that value is divided by 0. I'm going because I'm going to have a random logic. Every time I don't want to have a random number. I want even although it is going to be a random number, I just want a few of the cases to be, like identified so that I have some a repeated pattern inside it. Likewise, I'm going to create the birth date. I think in the user field, it is going to be a birth date. So for this user field birth date, Because I have already created my random date of birth, so what I'm going to say is dot get position of the value, because it is going to be a lambda expression, I of value. So I'm going to take that for each value, whatever it is going to get. Likewise, email. One of the annotations that we have on email on user class is it should be a proper email. So that is the reason I'm going to say as test appended with my random logic, where I'll just copy paste this random logic, and I'll say as divided by 3, and I'll just say as a 5 and 7. These are the random numbers. It has no logic, but just for populating the data, I'm just adding these values. Gmail.com. And finally, the last field is an address field that I'm interested in, and inside the address I can just say as an address that is going to take, and again I'll just add these values, where uh, I can say like now it will take, like, let's say as a 7, let's say as 2 and 4, because some random logic I'm going to make, and now I'm what I'm going to do is, because it is going to going to return this details. Obviously I need to build my object, so I'm going to use my build method. uh, so for this value, I need to mention, like, all these are my users data, and obviously once my data is there, obviously I want to see that in the database, so I'm going to save all the values inside my database, because it is going to be my services which are there inside my, which were annotated directly. I'm saying like just save all the data that was generated in the database. So, and in order to see all the values, this method will help us to retrieve all the values. Let's see if that is the case. So let's go to the get method. We are already on the get method, and let's try it out. So we have injected 500 values over here. Now you can see, because for ID we have, it's an auto-generated value, and rest of the details you can see, like for 5, 7, the random set has been generated some common values as well. So if we go back, the total number of records are 500, as it has started with 1. Uh, so this is how we can inject the data using for testing purpose. Once we inject the data, it will be very useful. Now let's discuss how we can use the custom filters. In order to use the custom filters, again we have to use it on the repo. So we are using it on our main repo itself, where we can say, like, there are a couple of important things that I need to discuss. One is the class. This interface is extending the JPA interface. Inside the JPA interface, we have a couple of methods that will ideally help on the like how to get the values, and how to delete it in a batch as well, like and how to flush the values. And we have something called as a paging and sorting. This is the topic where I'm interested in. And if you are seeing, we have a methods called something as a pageable. So when we key get methods, generally we like sites like if you take example, for example, like Amazon, when you see any e-commerce site, when you are keying looking for a products, when you key the details, you get all the specifications, like this search of this particular product is there in number of pages, and this is the page number, start page, end page, criteria, all those things. Now we are going to develop a similar kind of things for user as well. So that is the reason I'm going to use this type page object for that, which is going to have all the required details that we see, like how many total pages are there, how many elements are there, and rest of the stuff. So let's implement that inside our repository, where we are going to say like our return type is going to hold the user object within the page, where when we are going to find some keyword, find by some keyword on the search. Um, this method is going to return all the users, which is of uh, pageable object. So let's pass the parameters. Because it's a pageable object, it will take a parameter as a pageable. uh, I'm a little lazy in typing, so I'm just copy pasting it, my pageable object. And over here, because I said like search will take a keyword, where param, and I'll just name that as a keyword, and string type of keyword, string of keyword. So this param is going to be binded for this keyword. And if I save it and import the respective classes, I have imported and I have missed A inside it. So let me save it and import it. Import the pageable from domain, because it's a data. We are always interested in the data filtration, and hence it is always going to be a data domain imports. And if you go back, we said like it's a custom query filtering. So let's write a custom query with an annotation called as a query. Uh, and let's say like the value of the query will be this query annotation can have like two fields. One is a value where we are going to write the actual query, and second one that we are interested is a native query or not. So when we say like it is not going to be a native, I mean it is going to be a native query, then we can write in actual SQL. So I'll just say like comma native query to be true. Native, I'll just copy paste it instead of typing native query. So this field is going to be true in our case. And now we are going to write the query, where we will say like our query is select star from table, and our table is user underscore table, if I'm right. Let me quickly check it. The table name that we have mentioned is a user underscore table. So that is a table that it will refer to, where where I'm interested in picking the name, uh, because we have not have any surname or like. So I'm using a like query over here, and it has to search with the keyword that I have supplied as. So in order to say as my value, all I have to say is this, and because it's a like query, so it will take the details as a percentile start and percentile end. And I want to make it search in all the fields. So I'm going to say like search in name, if you find that value, search in address, and for now I'll make two parameters, like search in name and search in address. But the concept, you can extend the same concept to other fields as well. You can also make it as a search in email, and other fields as well. Let me make that, or search in email, email. Uh, so that's all for now. Uh, let's see this how we can integrate this with an application. In order to integrate this query with the application, definitely we have to go back to our controller, and we have to use our uh, get get mapping method, uh, where I can just say like get mapping, because I cannot create same type of it. Uh, I'll just say that get mapping is now being versionized. In that way, we are using the concept of version as well. Uh, v1 version, v1 slash version, retrieve all users uh, with such with such. So generally, when we are saying like with such, then we have to have a few parameters as request param. Uh, where I'm going to say like in order to make it a backward compatibility, I can mention like this is not required, and if user is not going to supply it, I'm going to default this value, uh, because the first value that I'm interested is to set the page number in it, page number. So I'm just going to say like a page number, and the other property that I'm interested is a page size. If a user has not set all these things, just default that to show only 10 records on the user screen. Um, and likewise sort order. Sometimes they can see like in a e-commerce site we can sort it by price, or we can sort it by brand, or any other thing. So over here I'm going to say as you can sort it with multiple things as well. uh, Sort and order. So what I will say as a string array type, where it will take two things. In user class, the primary key is ID, and I'm going to use uh, a delimiter hash, so that my data when it comes, I'm going to sort it accordingly. And I'll take one more field, and I'll say this as a actual search criteria, the name of the method, search criteria. So this is again going to be a string type, and if there is no value that is being present, in order to avoid the null pointer, I'm just saying like as a blank value. And inside these are going to be my parameters. Now what I'm trying to do over here is, so if my search criteria is going to be blank dot is blank method, then what I'm going to say is get me all the services, where I'm going to say is instead of finding all, because I have my paging logic, I'm going to use my paging logic. I'm going to build my paging logic and use it. Let's build the paging logic first. So in order to build the paging logic, what we have to do is we pageable dot paging. So I'm creating an object of that from page request class. So there is a static method of which will take these two parameters. So if I don't have a value, I can just pass this value directly. But because I also am interested in sorting mechanism, so what I'm trying to say is I'm going to sort uh, by using all my orders that I'm going to create, where my orders is going to be I'm going to import this classes first. create a local variable, that's right. So I'm going to import my data domain class and save it. And instead of one value, because I'm interested in a list of orders, I'm just saying as a list of order type. So I'll be importing the order class. So where am I going to get all these orders is basically this array, as I mentioned, contains both my sort logic and order logic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this array. I'm converting my array to array to stream. So inside this array, I'm going to say as my actual value of my array, and then I'm going to filter it out, where I'm going to say like if whether my array contains that value or not as a check. uh, yes dot contains. If it contains this value, then my nest logic is going to be implemented. If it contains this value, what I'm going to do is I'm using a map for every value I have seen this. I want to split my string accordingly. So yes dot split based on the value. Probably I can copy this once again. Uh, and now I'm going to map my arguments. I'll just say as an arguments. Each argument is going to be because my return type is going to be an order. I'm just trying to say like each one is going to be my order. Order will typically take like direction and the property. So I'm going to say like this is going to be my direction class, which is coming from data domain. And this has a methods called as from string, because my arguments when I split it, this becomes the first argument, and this becomes the zeroth argument. Array. I'm going to split as a ID is 0 and direction is going to be a 1. So all I'm trying to say is that pick it from my argument, where my argument value is going to be arcs of 1, and the second value of this method. So this is the first parameter, and the second parameter is the field value. Field value we are directly passing it. Please note, I'm not doing any additional conditions of a validation. So I'm expecting that user is going to enter like I of 0 is an existing field in the database. So that check I'm assuming currently. Probably over the period do that as well. So we have built for this. Once it is been sorted, I again want to use this collector to collect a method, so that I get my order list out of it. And now I'm having my pages. And now what I'm trying to do is, if I have my details ready, all I'm trying to say is get all my details. Else, the newly created method that I have, which will take by find by you know sorting, the method that I have created, find by keyword, sorry, we will additionally take another parameter called as a search criteria. So using this, what we have What we have developed is we are taking like page number, page size, sort orders, if any, on multiple fields. If there are on multiple fields, we are going to take it, and also we are going to take the search criteria on which the value it is going to be, used. So ternary operator, we have this condition. For, so I'm just closing it, and so if you see it, the return type, we have to obviously change the return type instead of list. What I'm going to say as instead of list of users, it is no longer a list, but it is going to be a page type of users. Let's see how it works in action. So because we have loaded the data, let's get all the data by clicking on clear and execute or execute. Now if we see it, we if we go to the end of the data, we are having all the 500 records. Just for my satisfaction, I am clicking it again. Yeah, so we have all the 500 records. The reason why we have the results are unchanged is because we have not entered any search criteria or anything as mentioned. The prime reason is we have created a different endpoint called as a V1 users. Let's see how we can enter all those parameters, and without entering all those parameters, the default values, you can see like how those default values are coming kicking. And if we say on execute, you can now see the values which you can see only because we have sorted in the descending order. If you see this parameters what we have given, we want to sort it by ID in a descending order. So you have seen all the details in the reverse order. In addition to that, you have also seen the details as what is how many elements are there in the page, because we have said like 10 elements, total 500. So how many pages it will be displayed. So in order to display in each page 10 items, it requires like 50 pages. So the total pages is 50. So number of elements in each page is 10. So we get the extra parameters. So let's see actually our search criteria is going to be working or not. If you see it, I have an address 4 field. So if I am trying to say like my search criteria, I want to search it on my address 4. So you can see now uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I mean all those address records has written address 4. We will pick a different order. We will say like sort by a name instead of ID, or we will see like ascending combination. So if I execute it, you can see it now one has not come in the list because one is not having address as a 4. So the rest of the values, even you can see like the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have got these values randomly which has an address 4. So if I don't give this such parameter, so if I execute it, you can see like one is having an address 2. So let's sort it with the address 2. If I want to execute it, now you can see a different pattern altogether. So you can see that content, how many elements are there? Total there are 58 elements, and if I'm trying to display like 58, each page containing 10 elements. If I want to change my search criteria, let us say I want to display 25 elements instead of 10 elements, then in how many pages I can display. If I see that list, you can see like my page size has now become 225, and it takes 3 pages to display 58 items, 25, 25, and remaining 8 in another item. That is the reason of page size. And we have something else, a page number. As I mentioned, like page number, if I set that to 1, now the second page will be displayed technically, because it is starting from 0. First page is 0. In a real time, we will have like a nest, and for 0 we will map that with the nest, and last page with the nest as well. So after previous and nest, if you remember the let me quickly show like what I'm trying to say. So if you typically go to the Amazon website, and when you are trying to buy it, we have these are the filters. Like we are trying to filter it based on various categories. We are just going to filter it. So when we filter it, you can see all these parameters in the such query parameters. The same way how this logic is going to be implemented. We have set the page number, and the concept of a page number comes when I'm going to search. Let us say if I search on iPhone. Now this search will give me a result, and also it will say me like a previous first page, second page, all these details as well. So this is the concept that I'm trying to explain you, where I'm trying to say like for this particular one, like we have like a previous page. If I click on 2, then if I go back, we have a concept of previous page being enabled. So this previous page generally will be set as a 0, and the later pages will be sliding on. So the same concept, because the data has to come from the backend. I have injected the data as part of the start of the video, and later we have used the versioning concept, which we have learned earlier, where I went with the URI versioning, and the query filtering logic over here, where we have filtered it. And obviously, if you want to implement the bean filtering, we can also implement it. Currently, in the user filter logic itself, how I have showed you, you can go to your actual util class, your user class, and you can implement the filter as well. You can take one of the values or create any new value and implement that value and see how it is working. So as it is now close to an hour, that's all for now. Thanks for subscribing, and please like and share the videos and comment if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon in the next video. Thank you.